Alright guys, so welcome to this tier list where I rank the dungeons. So this is the default ranking, the best dungeons, good one, the black stuff, they were okay, not really good, lacks important factors, okay, whatever. So I'm gonna be ranking all the 3D dungeons. Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, and Breath of the Wild. Is it here? Yeah, it's here. So remember, this is my list. I'm gonna try to go as quickly as possible because there is a lot. It's a lot, so it's gonna take a while. So at first, ancient system, okay, good one, but like stuff. So I really like the ancient system. It has amazing design, great music, great boss battle, amazing boss battle actually, Colossus, and the mini boss as well is really amazing. I love the whip. I like the whole idea of heaven and hell. My only two issues are, first of all, it's super easy, it's very linear. And second of all, the hell area, the basement, kind of lacks stuff. It has a really it lacks music. It's not scary. It has no scary enemies. It's really short. It's easy. Like, I think they could have done much more and made it much more scarier. It's supposed to be hell. It's supposed to be scary, but it doesn't have a scary music. It doesn't have like Red Deads or the Wall Masters or any scary enemies. The zombie bokoblins are pretty bad in my opinion. So yeah. Arbiter's Ground, good one, but lacks stuff. Well, I won't say it lacks anything, but I really like it. I really like the whole design of it, puzzles, the hunting the four poet sisters, everything about it. But the two major issues I have are, first, the boss battle to Salord. A lot of people seem to like it, but I have an issue with it. Specifically, the first phase is super easy, super dull, super boring. The mini boss is also super easy, but that goes for all of the for the majority of bosses and mini bosses in Twilight Princess. Another thing that kind of pisses me off in Arbiter's Ground is the locations of the key. Each key is located next to the locked door, so it's like there's no point in locking the door or putting a locked door when the key is just right next to it. But yeah, other than that, it's a really amazing dungeon, great music, great design. I love it a lot. Same thing with the City in the Sky. I love the City in the Sky. I like the whole idea of dungeon in the sky. It's a very complicated, difficult dungeon. Great puzzles, wind puzzles. The double hook shot is amazing. Argorok is amazing. The mini boss is amazing as well. I like it a lot. It's amazing. The only issue is there's a lot of time where you have to just wait because you lash into pea hats. So yeah, there are a lot of waiting time, and it can be super long. The Gate Rocky Tree, I'm gonna say it's boring. It's the first dungeon. It's really easy, boring, bad. It's very easy boss with Gohma. Nothing much to do. Same thing with the Dodongo's Cavern. I think the Dodongo's Cavern is pretty lacking. It's much better than the Decotria, and it's by far the best young Link dungeon. But still, it's super easy boss battle. I find it to be a really boring dungeon, honestly. The only thing that really stands out is like bombing the two eyes of the Dodongo, but that's it. I hate Dragon Roost Cavern, honestly. A lot of people seem to think it's one of the best first dungeons, but for me it's one of the worst, probably the worst. It's very long, very boring. Honestly, it takes way too long just to reach a boss, and the puzzles are just extremely boring. And when you get the boss key, you have to backtrack all the way, and it's just, in my opinion, it's a real boring dungeon. They could have made it much better, and they could have made it less linear by making a main room, and with that main room like branches out, so you don't have to like go the long backtrack through a very long route. But for me, like I said, I really don't like this dungeon. Earth Temple, for me, it's one of the, I will say, actually I put it here, it's one of the best dungeons in my opinion. I like everything about this dungeon, honestly. It's a linear and easy dungeon, but honestly, I don't care, it's a perfect dungeon in my opinion. Not my favorite from Wind Waker, but still, the puzzles with Mirror Shield and Medley is amazing. I really like the boss battle. A lot of people seem to hate it, but I think it's the best boss battle in the game. It has Valhalla has a lot of different moves. I like starting him with the Mirror Shield and then throwing him into the spikes. It's a really fun boss battle. The designs, the dungeon itself is a really spooky atmosphere. It has great puzzles with the Mirror Shield. Overall, I think it's a really good dungeon. Earth Temple from Skyward Sword it's kind of lacking. It's a really short, easy dungeon. The boss is decent. I won't say it's amazing, nor I will say it's bad. It's actually a good one. There's no small keys, which is kind of sad for a dungeon. It's a pretty short dungeon. Nothing. You immediately get the bombs, and you can easily go to the boss immediately. Nothing much to do. It mostly feels more of mini dungeon, honestly. Fire Temple, I would say it's okay. I have my issues with it, mostly because it's a very linear dungeon. It's a very linear dungeon. The goals don't do anything but give you a very subtle clues, and if you already know the clue or know what to do, the only reason you rescue them is for the small key. The puzzles are lacking. I really don't. The whole idea of a fire themed dungeon, in my opinion, is not executed well. You don't do anything with the fire theme. You can walk on lava, which makes it obsolete or makes the lava useless because it's supposed to be threatening. So having the ability to walk on it is kind of redundant. It's a bad idea in my opinion. You don't do anything with fire. You just try to avoid everything that's fire related. No, there's no puzzles related to fire basically. So in my opinion, it's a very poorly executed dungeon. They did a very good job with it in the Master Quest because you have to light torches and such. So it's a really good dungeon in the Master Quest, but other than the original, it's really bad. I love the Fire Sanctuary. It's my favorite 3D, my favorite fire dungeon in the entire Zelda series. I like the whole atmosphere. The music is amazing. There are a lot of great puzzles, like with the mole myths or like with the digging myths, underground puzzles using the water fruits. I like the Dark Lizard Foss, and the magma hands are kind of cool, but they could have made it much better. It's a really, in my opinion, it's a really good dungeon. It has a lot of different puzzles. You have to use a lot of your items, bow and arrow to hit enemies, hookshot, the bombs, the beetle, a lot of things. It's a really good dungeon. The only thing that sucks, in my opinion, is it's kind of easy. I wish they made the mini bosses a bit better, and the boss is kind of disappointing, gearing him against second time. But still, an amazing dungeon overall. I really like it. For Forbidden Woods, I'll say it's okay dungeon. I actually do enjoy Forbidden Woods for a second dungeon. I really like them using the boomerang, and the puzzles are decent with the boomerang, even with the deck leaf and such. In my opinion, it's a good dungeon. But it's alright. Nothing too amazing, nothing too bad. It's an alright dungeon. Forest Temple, it's one of the best dungeons ever in my opinion. My third favorite. My third favorite in the entire Zelda series. I like the whole atmosphere, the haunted mansion, the powers, the style fosses, the skull bubbles, the puzzles like drawing up the well, flipping the rooms, or like untwisting the corridors, hunting the four power sisters. I like Phantom Ganon. I think it's a really good dungeon, amazing. If I had to find any flaws, is that you only use your hookshot until you get to your bow and arrow. Like the only item you use is your hookshot until you get the bow and arrow. Okay, I really don't like the dungeon from Forest Temple from Twilight Princess. I have to give it credits with the monkeys. But other than that, I find it to be a pretty dull dungeon. I'm not sure why exactly. I just never enjoyed it. Like I said, the saving grace of it is the monkeys. I really like how the monkeys are implemented, how they help you throughout the dungeon. I'll give the dungeons credit, but I just don't enjoy it. Forsaken Fortress is a really bad dungeon in my opinion. The whole idea of stealth, just moving very slowly and avoiding enemies, is poorly executed here, in my opinion. It's just drags on way too long and it's just boring. I don't mind the stealth mission, but not like this. And the second time you visit it is like there's nothing, absolutely nothing. You beat Van Ganon and then you just get the skull hammer and then make your way to the boss. No keys, no boss key, no puzzles, nothing. Next we got Tower of Ganon, or is this Hyrule? I'm not sure which one, but generally speaking, I will say it's not that great of a dungeon. It's not awful, but it's not as bad as these one, but at least it's somewhat short with the decent puzzles. Like each room has its puzzles before fighting a boss. It's not great in my opinion for a final dungeon, but I mean at least it's short, so it's not that bad. Ganon's Tower from Ocarina of Time is decent. I like it. For final dungeons, it's decent, not the best, but still it's good. I like how each room has its different puzzles. It's a fun dungeon. They could have made it much better by introducing better puzzles in my opinion. But overall, it's an alright dungeon. Okay, Gore Mines, I really like it. I like the whole idea of how the iron boost is implemented here. The whole magnet ideas, how the boss key is broken down into 3 parts. The puzzles are, in my opinion, really great. It's a really good dungeon in my opinion. Overall, a really good dungeon. The only thing lacking is the boss, and the dungeon is kind of linear. And I wish that the boss keys were hidden in hidden rooms, secret rooms. The only one that's hidden in the secret room is the last segment. The other 2 segments you get it while you're traversing through the dungeon. So it's the idea of destroying the idea of the boss keys being divided into 3 segments. It's pointless since you already find the 2 while you're making your way through the dungeon without even searching for it. But still, it's a good dungeon. Okay, Great Bay Temple, I'm gonna say it right now, this is the best water dungeon ever. Water themed dungeon. Wait, hold on. Okay, yeah, so why I like the Great Bay Temple? For me, I like the design, especially in the 3DS remake, because it's much more clear, it's much more bright and colorful. I like the whole idea of the valves and the pipes and flipping the currents. It's a really creative idea. I like using the ice arrows to freeze enemies to create your own path. I think the mini boss world is really challenging and one of the best mini bosses ever, just because of the challenge. I like York a lot in the 3DS remake. Like overall, the dungeon is really creative, honestly, and I like using Zora Link. And the puzzle with the fire arrows are well done here, especially in one of the last rooms where there's a seesaw and you have to use a fire arrow to melt ice and to balance the seesaw, or like to push the seesaw from one side. So it's an amazing dungeon, in my opinion, the best water temple dungeon, or water themed dungeon. The last dungeon from Twilight Princess is a great one, honestly. I think it's one of the best final dungeons. It's a really beautiful one. I really like the hidden room where you have to where you have to dig as a wolf linked, and you go into this graveyard. The puzzles are amazing, or like decent. Are decent. It's a really good dungeon overall, better than the one from Ocarina of Time. Honestly, I'm gonna say it right now. I won't judge the dungeons from Breath of the Wild that much, especially this one, because I only played Breath of the Wild once or twice. I didn't really like the game, and honestly, Hyrule's Castle, like I just didn't care about it, honestly. I like that there are hidden areas, but you can just make your way through the boss, so it makes the other places like useless. It's just optional. So I won't really judge it, honestly. Jabu Jabu is probably one of the worst dungeons ever. I hate Princess Ruto. The only saving grace about this dungeon is burying it, and that's it. Like the temple, it's one of my least favorite dungeons, but I'll have to give it credit for the design and the difficulty. But I just really hate how big and empty the dungeon is, or like boring the dungeon is. It's so big but so boring at the same time, especially the two rooms before the boss key. It's just a pain to go through. I just don't like this dungeon. It's creative, it's great, but I just don't enjoy it. The Narrow Mining Facility, it's one of the greater dungeons. I like the whole idea of the time shift puzzles, time shift stone crystals. It's well executed. This dungeon is difficult. Has a lot of difficult enemies with the Mimos and the Armos. The puzzles are great. I really like it overall. It lacks a mini boss, and the boss is kind of disappointing because he later becomes a mini boss. So a downgrade. Okay. I'm gonna put Van Meadow on okay, and Van Aboris in great. Like, I love Van Aboris. It's the best dungeon in Breath of the Wild. I honestly don't like any of the dungeons in Breath of the Wild, but Van Aboris really stands out to me. It's a really good dungeon, difficult, fun. I really like the main gimmick where there are 3 parts in the main room and you can flip them all 360. It's a really well made dungeon, in my opinion. I really like it. Thunderblight Ganon is the only boss that I found enjoyable and challenging. But Meadow, I actually enjoyed it for a bit. I really like the whole wind puzzles. I really like wind puzzles, and Van Meadow does a decent job with it. I like it a lot, and actually I forgot to mention, but I do like wind Blight Ganon. He's not difficult, but I just like the whole idea of like going through the air currents and shooting him down with the bow and arrow. It's fun. I like this dungeon a lot, honestly. I hate Palace of Twilight. It has way too many keys, and it's just a boring dungeon in my opinion. For me, it's a really bad dungeon. I just don't like it. Too many keys. The puzzles are kind of annoying. You have to fight Phantom Zan twice. I just don't like it. I just never enjoyed it. I would give it credit. I'll give it credit. It's a well-designed dungeon, but I just don't like it. Okay, Vadarunia or Vadaruk or Darunia, whatever. Forgot his name. Vadunaria, whatever. It's in my opinion the worst dungeon in Breath of the Wild. I don't like it. Super disappointing. The whole idea of like everything being dark, it was a great idea, but it immediately goes away. Everything becomes bright. The main gimmick of flipping it 90 degrees only is really bad. It's a very bad dungeon, and the worst. And the Fireblight Ganon is, in my opinion, the worst blight. Valroot, I actually enjoy it. It's the first one I tackled, and it's a decent one. I like it. I really like using the ice weapons, like ice arrows and the ice power with the Sheikah Slate, the cryonical, whatever it's called. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed using it. It's a decent dungeon. Nothing too great, but it's a decent one. I'll put it here, and they were okay. Okay, Sandship, second favorite dungeon ever. I love this dungeon. It's my second favorite. I like the whole idea of only one time crystal, and you have to be creative on how you're going to use it to flip the switch from past and present with only one time crystal. The mini boss is amazing. I loved using the bow and arrow and the creativity of it. The story of Skipper and his crew. The design of the dungeon, being in a ship. Everything is amazing except for one thing: the boss. I'll say it. I do enjoy the boss battle to an extent, but the design and the second phase is really bad. But overall, it's an amazing dungeon. I love this dungeon a lot. Shadow Temple, it's a good dungeon, but kind of lacking. My two main issues with it is the silver rupees. I hate how there are how it's repeated 3 times in this dungeon, and I just don't like the puzzle of gathering 5 silver rupees. And it's a very linear dungeon. But other than that, I do enjoy it. I like the creepy atmosphere, Dead Hand Bongo Bongo, the use of Lens of Truth. It's a great creative dungeon, but kind of lacking. Sky Keep, one of the best. It's in my opinion, the best final dungeon. I love it a lot. Basically, there are 9 rooms, 8 rooms, and 7 of them are how much? 7, I guess, are based off the past dungeons, and one room that you begin with. So yeah, like just a really creative dungeon, and each room has a great creative puzzle based on a previous dungeon. My favorite room was one based on the Lanayru mining facility and the Sandship. Least favorite was one based on Fire Sanctuary, and the one based on the Earth Temple was also really creative. And that's it, yeah. Skyview Temple is alright dungeon. It's not really good. For the first dungeon, it's decent. Nothing too amazing. It's a very linear dungeon, super easy. Better than the Earth Temple, but still lacking. And the boss is just Kirahim. Snowhead Temple, I really like this dungeon. It's one of my favorite. I won't say it lacks stuff. Actually, I'll put it right here. I really like all the dungeons in Majora's Mask, and Snowhead Temple is no exception. I like the puzzle with the Goron Link. The fire is put to good use, and the whole idea of raising the pillar and then destroying part of it is also really well done. I like this dungeon a lot. And the boss is amazing. Goth is just amazing. Snow Peak Ruins, a dungeon that I really like but lacks stuff. Well, I love this dungeon a lot. It used to be my favorite dungeon for a while, but then dropped a bit because of I'll just say it. Twilight Princess I have an issue with Twilight Princess's color scheme. Like everything is just dark, so it's difficult for me to see the dungeons clearly, and that's one of my issues with the dungeons in Twilight Princess, honestly. But anyways, Snow Peak Ruins is amazing. I really like this dungeon. It's creative. I really like it. It's difficult, or like it's creative. It's creative. I'm just gonna say it right now. I like the boss. I like the mini boss. I like using the ball and chain. The puzzles are creative and difficult in my opinion. The only issue, like I said, is the color scheme, or like the dark theme of the dark color of the game itself, and the mini freezers are annoying, honestly. Spirit Temple, the same thing. It lacks something, and my issue with the Spirit Temple are 2 things, or 3 things actually. One, that the silver rupees are repeated 3 times, just like the Shadow Temple, and I don't like it. 2, the whole idea of past and present is poorly executed in my opinion. I would really have loved how what you do in the past affected the present and such. But you only go to the past once and then go back to the present and beat the boss. And finally, I really don't like Twin Rova, honestly. I'm just gonna say it right now. Twin Rova is probably one of my least favorite bosses, along with the Imprisoned. I just don't like Twin Rova at all. It's just basically a waiting game. You just wait for them to attack you. Stone Tower Temple, best dungeon ever. My favorite dungeon. And then the Sandship, and then the Forest Temple. So what can I say about the Stone Tower Temple? Perfect music, perfect mini boss of the Grandmaster and Gomez. The twin mode is amazing in the 3DS remake. The whole idea of flipping the dungeon upside down is amazing. Design, puzzles, creativity with the Deku Link, Goron Link, Hookshot, Light Arrows, Zora Link. The Age of Emptiness. You have to use your Ocarina to solve some puzzles. Bombs. You basically use all of your arsenal Plus the design, the backstory, the music, everything about this dungeon is amazing. It has everything I could ask for. The only issue I'll say is that you have to flip the dungeon a couple of times just to get the stray fairies, and it's a pain to go back to the dungeon again. And I'm not sure. Oh, that's it. It's kind of linear, and you have to fight Wizrope again. I hate the Wizrope, but that's it. The moon, I won't say anything about it. It's an okay dungeon. Honestly, it's not that great. It's not even that great of a dungeon, but I just like the mini dungeons idea. I like the goth section. It's a pain, but I like it. I like the twin mode section. It's really fun fighting the mini bosses again and using the bomb shoes. York section is great in the 3DS remake, and the only one I don't like is the Adolbo section. But other than that, it's a great idea. For a final dungeon, it's not great, honestly, but what it kind of represents, it's great. It's a good dungeon, or like a good mini dungeon, I have to say. I'll just put it here, honestly. Temple of Time, I'm gonna be honest with you, I really don't like this dungeon. It's a very linear dungeon, the puzzles are super easy, and once you get the mini rod, you just go backtrack. You just destroy everything in your path and backtrack, that's it. I just don't like this dungeon. Even the boss Armagohma is pretty bad, honestly. I have to give it credit, the Dark Knight is amazing. I like the idea of the minion rod, and the idea of going through the Temple of Time actually being a dungeon is amazing, but it's just disappointing in my opinion. Tower of the Gods, it's a good dungeon, but lacks stuff. I'm not sure what it lacks, but I just don't enjoy it as much as the other dungeons. It's a good dungeon, I like it. Nothing much to say. I like getting the 3 statues back to the main room to go to the top floor. I like fighting the Dark Knight. The first section with the boat is creative, unique, but that's it. The Water Temple, a lot of people seem to hate it, but I actually enjoy it. It's one of the better dungeons in the game. Sorry, I'll put it right here. It's my second favorite dungeon in Ocarina of Time, honestly. I just like the creativity, or like the design of this dungeon, the complexity. The puzzles are decent. My only issues are that some of the puzzles are kind of boring. I hate playing the Ocarina of Time over and over again, just like the Illusion of Emptiness. It becomes redundant after a while, even though it's creative. I don't like putting my iron boots on and off. It's fixed in the 3DS remix, so that's good. And honestly, I just don't like Dark Link or Morpha. But other than that, I really like this dungeon a lot. As a dungeon, it's really great. Woodfall Temple is, in my opinion, the best first dungeon. It's short, it's simple, it has a main gimmick or main room. There's not a lot of backtracking. I like using Deku Link. The whole idea of purifying the water as a gimmick is simple, not that great, but still it had a gimmick. I like Adolwa, like it's a good first boss battle, nothing too amazing, but I like it. It's overall, it's in my opinion the best first dungeon. And finally, the Wind Temple. This is my favorite temple in Wind Waker. I like I like the complexity of this dungeon, how it's not linear at all, unlike the other dungeons in this game. It's the only one that's not linear. There are multiple paths, it's difficult. I like the boss, I like the mini boss, I like the Wizrobe, it's actually annoying and challenging. I like the use of hook shot, iron boots, and the Deku Leaf. They're all put to good use. I like the wind puzzles. I like how huge the main room is and how many rooms there are to explore. Overall, I really like this dungeon. So yeah, I guess that's it. I hope I did not take that long. But just to go through it, this is how I would rank my dungeons. First, Stone Tower. Next, Sand Ship. After that, Forest Temple. Then comes the Fire Sanctuary. Then the Great Bay Temple. And then I'll put the Wind Temple. For 3D dungeons, there are no 2D dungeons, so this is how it goes. Then basically a Wind Temple, maybe then Snowhead Temple, and then the Earth Temple. Here I would put probably Arbiter's Ground the first, or maybe and then followed by Linear Mine Facility, or the opposite, vice versa. And then Ancient Sister, and maybe like these two are interchangeable, Ancient Sister and City in the Sky. After that comes the Water Temple and Goron's Mine, they're interchangeable. Also there's Sky Keep, and Snow Peak Rooms as well. I'll put this one right here, like this. So yeah, like this is how I would rank the dungeons here, and that's it. If I had to rank my least favorite dungeon, it would be Palace of Twilight. Sorry, Vadurani or whatever his name is. Maybe Jabu Jabu's Belly. Liquid Temple, Forsaken Fortress, or actually Forsaken Fortress is worse in my opinion. Liquid Temple, Dragon Rosal is actually worse. Actually, Liquid Temple is the best of these. So yeah, this is how I would rank the dungeons and the worst and the best and the best. Stone Tower, Stanship, Force Temple, etc. And then these are the worst. The worst being Twilight Princess, Palace of Twilight, and then it goes to Liquid Temple. Anyways, I really hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Thank you for watching, guys.